Super, thank you very much. Welcome to Personnel Board, everybody. I'm going to start by doing introductions around the table because we have a couple of officers have joined us, and we are going to, I'll talk about this in a minute, but we're just going to slightly change the agenda to make most of your time. So, Pauline, do you want to say?
I'm Pauline Youngson, I'm Conservative Councillor for Hillside Board. I'm leader of the opposition.
I'm Bree Brown, I'm one of the Lib Dem councillors on this board, and I'm the deputy leader of the council.
I'm Lindsay Ferris, I'm Ward Councillor for Twyford and exec member for Planning and Local Plan.
I'm Sally Watkins, I'm the Chief Operating Director and Workforce Development Specialist.
I'm Lee Partridge and I'm the resourcing partner.
Sally Halliwell, I'm the head of HR and OD.
I'm Louise Livingston, Assistant Director of Corporate Services.
And I'm Rachel Bishop Firth, and I'm an Embrook councillor and chair of the Personnel Board, amongst other things.
I'm Madeline Shopton, Democratic Services.
Okay. Welcome to the meeting. As I mentioned earlier, to make the best use of your time, we're going to rejig the agenda slightly. So we're going to start off after the normal declarations of interest and other council points with the apprenticeships within Woking Borough Council. Then we're going to go on to recruitment and retention. Then we'll do the agency report and the gender pay gap report. And we will finish off by going through the policy updates and the legislation updates. I'm hoping that we will be able to go through those quite quickly because they are things that Louise brings to us as the expert. Really for us to eyeball and ask any burning questions. It's not a major update. It's simply a bit of a refresh, as I understand it, in line with what the law requires us to do.
Yeah, legally, yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. So, if I can ask for apologies first of all, I've got three. I've got Stephen Conway, Pauline Hillier-Simons, and Stuart Monroe, and we. I don't think we've got anybody else, have we? Then I was going to mention just very quickly before we go on to minutes of the previous meeting, we had to cancel the last meeting because there was a question mark about whether we should be quorate. So I'll discuss it with Louise and Madeline, and what we'll do going forward is if there's any question about the numbers, Pauline, if you and I could be the contacts, we can contact people within our group. And then if we can get a quorum, we will go ahead with the meeting.
What is the quorum?
Three in total. Yeah. We are looking to see whether we can change the constitution to get substitutes as well. But that's obviously going to be a bit of a longer term thing. So I think the next point of order is the minutes for the previous meeting. And we've got the minutes of the meeting held on the 20th of November. And the minutes of the extraordinary meetings held on the 4th of December and the 14th of December. Are there any questions, points, changes, or any of those? Am I allowed to take all of those together? If I could propose those minutes and pre-seconds, and yeah, I think everybody's happy with those. Have you stayed?
Was that all of them? I think it was.
Yeah. Yeah, with that caveat,
yes.
If you were there, yeah. Have we got some declarations of interest? And have we got any questions from the public? No, super. Have we got any questions from members? Super. So the next item on the agenda is the apprenticeships, which is something I'm really pleased to see coming to this board. Apprenticeships, as I think a lot of us will know, we have to, as a larger organisation, pay a levy to the government, and so it's something we absolutely want to get the most out of that money, because when we have an apprenticeship, we get some of that money back. And also it's absolutely the best thing to do for local people and for the council. And there's some really, really exciting things that you're looking to do with apprenticeships to fill some of the gaps, which are really, really hard to fill. Where often the only choice that we have at the moment is to fill them with, for example, agency staff or contractors. So over to you.
Yeah,
Are you happy for me to carry the seat, stay seated or?
Absolutely.
Well, that's comfortable for you. Yes, I need to do that, yeah. So, this is a sort of an overview of the presentation that I've been giving to, well, everybody, I think, within the council in the last couple of months. So why are we here? So to consider apprenticeships first, for recruitment and training requests, to develop a CLT workforce champion, which Sally has very kindly offered to lead on. And it's not, obviously, apprenticeships is our main focus tonight, but moving forward, we're also going to be looking at work experience, T levels, and any other initiatives that the government may introduce. And then to create a career development network, which will be combining the apprenticeship academy that we have with the graduate academy to make it one rather than having separate networks. So why apprenticeships first? To ensure that we're not missing any opportunities to spend levy funds, but also to make savings elsewhere. Over the last 10 years, local government has lost 40% of its workforce, whereas every other part of the public sector has grown. So we need to look at workforce for the future. We're the lowest paying part of the public sector. So often they use the term outbid for talent because of higher wages offered by sort of competitors and other employers. So although it's a big obstacle in many areas, it's not, as they put here, the silver bullet. There are other ways in which we can attract new talent. And over half of councils are saying that their lack of workforce is going to have a moderate effect, and it's a large concern moving forwards. So why apprenticeships first? And I should say this data is all from the Local Government Association report that was issued, it was October time. So 94% of councils are reporting recruitment and retention problems. And when I speak to my counterparts in neighbouring authorities, they're very much feeding that back as well. 88% of councils with social care responsibilities say the shortage of social care workers is causing acute difficulties in service provision. 2.1 billion was spent between 22 and 23 by councils on agency staff. 800 million is the amount that's been paid into the apprenticeship levy by councils between April 2007 and December 2022. And 359 million is the amount that councils have spent on apprenticeships, which is about 44.5% of the funding received.
How much did we spend?
Sorry?
How much did we spend?
We're about medium. Oh yeah, we are very much on par with all of our neighbouring authorities. I do pick some of them.
I'm just wondering how much our apprentice levy contribution was.
We get, I think it's just over 400,000 a year. And then,
How much do we pay in?
How much we paying?
that's done by finance, the actual amount we're paying in, but
Yeah,
I
we
get.
can check that probably.
Yes, it'd be good if maybe we could get that circulated.
Yeah.
And then 81% is the proportion of councils that have seen some levy funds expire. And to give a little bit of background on this, when apprenticeships first came out, they were frameworks. And the government decided to do away with frameworks and to bring in standards. And it's taken a long time to get to where we are now. So there's over 666 apprenticeship standards at the moment available. But what they've done is they've removed quite a few level 2 qualifications. So it's been trying to, especially for our schools, persuade them and show them how actually a level 3 TA is just as good as the level 2 and the benefits of using it. So there were some changes about 2-3 years ago now on the apprenticeship structure. So here is just a list of shortage areas highlighted in the LGA report. But what we've done is actually the job roles where we have skill shortages, every single one of them listed has an apprenticeship match to it. So we can utilise apprenticeships in order to attract that talent. And as a council, we're looking at 2 routes of utilising apprenticeships. So the traditional route of recruiting new apprentices into apprenticeship roles, and then as a professional development route for our existing staff to upskill the workforce. So since May 2017, 226 staff have enrolled onto 56 different apprenticeship programmes with 54 different training providers. the original target set by government was that 2.3% of the workforce should be on an apprenticeship each year, which for the council would be approximately 80 apprenticeships per year, including our maintained schools. And since February 23, we've actually recruited 8 new staff members as apprentices. So instead of going down the usual route of using, say, going out for a grade 6 administrator, we've actually recruited an apprentice instead. And they're the areas that we've recruited in. And just recently, we've actually taken on another administrator and a civil engineer apprentice, which is very exciting.
Does that mean that somebody came in as an apprentice,
Rather than
then
recruiting,
became an officer?
no, rather than recruiting an officer, we've recruited an apprentice into that role so we can grow our own and upskill.
Okay.
So how can apprenticeships help with recruitment? So although apprenticeships are not by any means a quick win, the long-term benefits are huge. So there is a high agency spend. An example I've used here is on social workers. By utilising the apprenticeship levy and upskilling our existing workforce over time, we could reduce our agency spend, increase staff retention, boost morale, and help future-proof our organisation. And more importantly, could even become our own little mini social work academy for our own. And similar approaches could be and are actually now being rolled out across the council. And just some facts here that I've put is 6 staff now have actually completed the social work apprenticeship in adult social care, and 5 have remained with the council. And of the 10 staff that we brought in to do the ASYE, 9 of them are still remaining within the council. So it shows real good retention figures there.
Gemma, could you just explain for us what the ASYE is?
So yeah, I'm not sure what the abbreviation stands for, but basically once you've completed your social work course,
If you go back to the slide, just popped it into the slide so we can understand.
go back.
There we go. It's assessed and supported during employment. So yeah.
So once they complete their 3-year apprenticeship or their university degree, they have to do 1 year with support, at least additional support in the role. And
Yeah.
what have you.
Yeah.
It's so they're getting that expertise, so they've got the qualification, and then they're getting more practice assessment, sort of real on the job experience on top of their qualification.
So very similar to an early career teacher, for example.
Yeah.
You know, a doctor has to serve years as a
Yes, absolutely.
They've
Yeah.
had some really good ones as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some to national conference like that. Yes.
Yeah, it's a really good area.
To add, actually, I nearly forgot, but Children's have been successful in getting DFE funding for social work apprentices. So for the first time, we have hopefully 4 apprentices that closed today actually for expressions of interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for internal staff,
Yes,
not
correct.
not for bringing in somebody as an apprentice, but for people to retrain in like first.
There's been a real demand for a long time within children's services from existing staff to do the social work apprenticeship as they do in adults. So this is a real positive step.
That's amazing. Well done. Yeah.
Really pleased.
And here's the dashboard of the number of new starts, completions, and in the final column you can just see at the bottom that as of the 30th of September last year, we actually had 78 staff across the organisation on apprenticeship programmes, and that actually rose to 85 in October.
So that's the 80 that we spoke.
Yeah.
Well, that's in total. We should. It's per year. So it would be great to be doing that, and hopefully moving forward, that's what this will help us to achieve. So how can we spend more levy, save money, upskill and retain our workforce? So apprenticeships first. So I'm going to just go out to recruit to consider apprenticeships first and discuss with myself whether actually an apprenticeship programme would be suitable. So the proposal is that for all grade 4 to 6 vacancies that come up, that actually we look to see if there is an apprenticeship that we can put them on. And to add to this, I looked back between April 22 and March 23, and we had 37 admin vacancies. I don't know the details of what grades they were or whether they were fixed, but if we had gone down the route of recruiting apprentices rather than a grade 4, so the lowest grade, we would have saved over 97,000 a year in salary costs, and we would have spent over 120,000 pounds worth of living. So that's just one example of how we
Balance
could.
is out there, roughly.
So apprenticeship is an additional benefit being offered alongside job offers. So as a CPD, and sort of an example I've used before is senior social worker. Often people move into the roles because they're good at the job, but actually to suddenly become a manager, that's on the team leader, supervisor apprenticeship or the manager apprenticeship, to give them those skills as well. And again here for training requests, looking at training requests within the team that comes up as part of APR and actually whether an apprenticeship could meet that. And succession planning, so utilising apprenticeship training to upskill our staff, but that means looking 3, 5, even 10 years ahead because of the timescales for apprenticeships, but it does work. We've got somebody just about to finish their 7-year solicitor degree apprenticeship and she's been given a conditional offer for the litigation lawyer post within the council when she completes. So that's a real positive.
And such a great illustration of how senior the traineeships can be.
They can be, you know, you're talking masters level with it.
Absolutely. And it talks to our agency report. So that is one of the areas in resources and assets that's always been difficult to recruit to. So again, we're growing our own, and that's succession planning.
And they're really keen as well to go down that pathway again once
they've seen the proof, though, haven't they?
Yeah,
proof.
I think
This one, is that linking with the university anywhere, or is that just a feed?
It's with the University of Law, so all of the degree level apprenticeships are linked to a university. They will deliver it. So basically she's getting her law degree, her solicitor qualifications and no student debt, but also being
Don't
paid.
know of a University of Law. There's law everywhere.
Do you mean which university? Do you know?
No, there is a university.
Yeah, it's the University of Law. Yeah, I think it's in Guildford.
Apologise, I didn't know that.
I think the question was, is it about a strategic relationship with our local university? But I think it's the best university.
it's the best with framework.
Framework, yeah. But we will always look for our partners, absolutely.
And location as well. If we get there's more universities offering the degrees now, whereas that's another restriction. When they first came out, for example, building surveyors, they were only offered at the University of Wolverhampton. So obviously we then had to factor in travel expenses and things like that for the apprentices. But we do look at which is the best university or the best training provider.
Yeah.
And they offer apprenticeships now as well. Yeah. So it's one to consider. But yes, so succession planning as well. And apprenticeship promotion. So I've got scheduled comms in the download on SharePoint, Managers Network. I got invited to a roundtable discussion as part of National Apprenticeship Week to feed back our experience on apprenticeships, where the blockages were, how we're working with our schools. So I'm an apprenticeship ambassador as well. So I'm trying to go to careers fairs and things. So to talk about apprenticeships in general, as well as us as an organisation and the opportunities that we've had.
So one of the things we're doing in Children's Services is looking at our sixth form or post-16 offer and how that is quite academic at the moment within the borough. The colleges, the FE colleges are not in the borough. We need to keep a good relationship with them, but we need to think about broadening our offer to post-16 and this kind of thing, and T levels that you had in there.
So, and that's why I'm off to Bowhunt on Wednesday to their careers fair, and it will be I can talk about the T levels and work experience as well as apprenticeships. But
We've got a very passionate person.
I get very excited about these things.
Education.
Yeah. So Oliver Gets, so we haven't read him. He's also very enthusiastic.
So where you've got apprenticeship training that you can't get locally, are there any sort of common things that you can do with other local authorities that are local?
Yeah, so we collectively feed back to the LGA and government on where we've got the gaps and the shortages, and so collectively, and we have seen that happening. So we've been feeding back for a long time about teaching assistants, there's been a real slump in assistant apprenticeships. And we said, well, we need the added extra. We've got schools that are wanting the HTLA qualification, so the higher level teaching assistant qualification. We've got a provider that now is including that at no additional cost as part of the apprenticeship. And we've also, that same provider is offering a TA apprenticeship with a SEND focus, because that's another area where there hasn't been, and it's about upskilling the staff. And we're seeing an influx of SEN pupils coming into schools, so it's how we can support that.
What I've done a couple of times is commissioned my own apprenticeship from an educational authority, educational establishment, because I could get the volume. And you probably can't necessarily do that. But I'm just wondering if between the local authorities in the area, if you all need the same thing, you could get together and commission one. From say Blackwall.
We're doing it. This is the vein of all of our lives. Every local authority has a different procurement method for apprenticeships. There's some that are only buy into a framework, so they'll only take advice from the framework. And I'm really lucky here that I can go out and pick the best provider, providing it's under a certain amount, to deliver the apprenticeship to meet the needs of our staff. Because
but it's worth.
Well, we are though, just so you know, sorry, I didn't mean to cut in on Gemma, but there's also so our network, and there was a piece of work that Gemma assisted me with actually, and Susan and Sally were involved with it as well, where we were actually looking at an apprenticeship for local government. It's been a bit interesting because I think it's been more about actually, I think the provider is perhaps not quite at the right level that we actually need, and our experience hasn't always been the most positive. But what I want to say is we're very open to, and we're looking at ways that we can come together and use our collective power to look at this.
So I commissioned one of them, that's the payroll, because you just can't get them. And the other one I did was an IT apprenticeship. So both of them are transferable skills.
Yeah.
But I had enough volume to be able to commission. Whilst if you wanted to commission something for a highways inspector or whatever, you might not struggle with the volume. But if you and Bracknell and Woking and Reading and whatever got together, surely you could change the procurement rules to make it.
Some of the providers as well, what we're finding is some will have quite high numbers to do a localised intake, and often we can't meet it. So for the town planning assistant apprenticeship, that's what we're finding. So Isle of Wight, Brighton, we're all in the same boat, but we haven't got enough apprentices collectively, which I think they're looking at 20 or 30, because we just need 1 or 2 within each of the authority. So it's difficult, but we're constantly looking at ways to work together.
Yes, so I found Bracknell Working College were willing to commission stuff from scratch.
And just to be clear, when we talked about the proposal of grade 4 and grade 6, that's been agreed. So CLT have said, yes, that is the approach we will take.
How many would that be?
Well, I think when we looked at it last year, I think they could have done.
How many was that?
Well, for the admin apprenticeship alone would have been 37.
So it's a good step forward.
Can I just say, grade 4 and grade 6 doesn't necessarily mean a lot to me.
So grade 4 is the lowest.
Yes, I know, I would understand it's lower, but the issue is, what level are we going to in apprenticeships? I look at degree level, other qualifications, and then if somebody comes in as an apprenticeship, one of the advantages of apprenticeship is they're not paying all the university fees, and in fact they'd be getting some form of salary. And it's a good way of people getting in and then get a qualification. What level is that qualification, and does it go as far as a degree?
Yeah, so they start off at level 2, which is the equivalent to GCSEs, and then they go up to level 7, which is master's degree level. So it depends on the
level
role.
4 is what?
Level 4 is foundation degree. So level 3 is the equivalent to 3 A levels.
Right.
Level 4 and 5 is foundation degree level, and level 6 and 7 is your master's degree level.
The grading 4 to 6 is our pay banding.
Yeah,
So
that was the pay banding, but it was the level of.
And it depends on which qualifications. So I started as an apprentice, and I went up, so I think I did my A-level equivalents as an apprentice. That's because that's where it stopped in the 90s.
In those days.
In those days. Thanks. But now, depending on how far into people want to take it, they can literally go all the way
All the
through.
way
So
through.
Yeah.
it's a real differential. I think the differential for us as a council is, I think Gemma showed a really great slide that in the older days, from my mind, your apprenticeship had an age limit. So you tend to kind of put it around your new to employment type age bracket, but we're trying to use the apprenticeships as a way to develop our existing staff as well. So it depends where they are on their career journey. We've got staff from across the organisation. Some are heads of service, some are relatively junior, who are looking to expand their opportunities through taking an apprenticeship.
So there's two routes here. There's people coming in through the apprenticeship scheme and then retaining a good percentage.
Yeah.
But if there's also an opportunity looking at other bodies who have got apprentices who may not take on all of the people that they've recruited.
Correct.
So it's another source of coming in. And it's the issue of outside of the local government, because if somebody's got a degree from University of X, then all the bodies around the country would know that that is what that degree is. But if you've got a degree through the apprenticeships,
It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
So it's
which is
exactly-
why,
And they are recognised.
yes, they are recognised. But it's if you had it's sounding a bit odd. If you were a major company in a law firm, and you had somebody come in and they were from University of Oxford or University of Cambridge or whatever, got a better chance of getting taken up by firms like that than somebody from the University
Not
of
necessarily.
Stanford.
We've actually lost 2 building surveyors to the private sector because they were offered more wages, but
Yes.
actually what the feedback has been, like, for example, with the solicitor degree apprenticeship, actually, if our apprentice were to go to one of the top law companies, with the degree she's got, it's exactly the same as Oxford or Cambridge, but she's also got 7 years of actual work experience, whereas the graduates straight out.
They don't
Yeah.
understanding
Yeah.
of
So they're getting the actual experience. It's not about just having the theory, it's being able to do the role as well. So when anybody completes an apprenticeship, they've got the theory and they've got the experience, the qualification.
Or someone who looks a little bit further ahead.
Yeah.
Whilst we're in the development of apprenticeships, this is good. You're getting a good retention. If you've now got people who are working for us who've got qualifications which are now starting to be accepted across the board, we'll start losing people in salary.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting, and the other one I was looking at is that can we, in the reverse direction, get somebody who's gone through an apprenticeship? In reverse. So it's almost just like another means for young people. It's not necessarily unique for younger people. It will be wider. Who will not have gone through a university degree, will not have had all the fees and charges that they've had associated with it. They've had an income at the time of going through it, and at the end of the day end up with something either similar, the same as, whatever. So I think I very much support apprenticeships, because I've always, we went down very bad in the 90s and 00s and the like, and they almost disappeared. And I think that we need to have that, because it's the answer isn't go to university, it's getting the appropriate level of knowledge and understanding, whatever that is.
Interestingly, in the adult social care review that we had, and there was the social workers that were in there, there was actually the story where somebody returned to Wokingham Borough Council, not only because they actually got their apprenticeship with us, but actually what they realised once they'd moved away, they realised actually this was a really nice and good place to work. And they've come back, and their story is very much, I'm not going anywhere else. And so it's there's a loyalty somehow as well that comes. It won't last forever, and you will lose people. Yeah, you will lose some people. I appreciate.
Or you will, whatever.
Yeah. I think it is entirely people also, I think, large proportion of our staff live locally as well, and there is something that's having your workplace on your doorstep or nearby. Equally, we've got that flexibility now for remote working, but what you're saying, we actually have staff join and we transfer their apprenticeship over. So when I speak to managers now, I do sort of say to them as well, we need to think about the next step and actually how we're going to grow and develop people, because if we haven't got the next step, that's when they leave. And that's when, looking at our retention figures, 70% of people that complete apprenticeships remain with us. And I can probably say at least 20, of that 30% that leave, 25% it's because we haven't had that next step opportunity available. But that's hopefully what will come about from introducing apprenticeships first and using them to upskill staff, is that we'll start to see career pathways forming within teams, especially in those hard to recruit areas, that we can grow our own. And people want to stay with us because we are investing in them. They'll talk to somebody else that's not getting that opportunity in a neighbouring authority. And that's what we find. You talk to your counterparts in similar roles that aren't being given the opportunities. And that goes back to one of the first slides, like that silver bullet of it's not just salary.
Well, the other bit of that is also the fact that some people doing apprenticeships in other places don't get the amount of time off that you're meant to give them. Whereas ours have got such a great experience because they have had that time off.
I just wanted to say we're bringing this to personnel board because we feel this is a real area of focus for the council. Moving forwards, and it's as it's been described tonight, it's not a silver bullet, nor have we reached the heady heights that I think Gemma would like us to get to. But we wanted to bring this as a bit of an indicator as to where the direction that the HR service is looking to move into in relation to supporting workforce development for the organisation. We really do feel this is something that could underpin not just apprenticeships, T-level and
I think that's the next stage of our presentation. It's the next stage aspect of what you're doing. It's what you're going to move on. I've written down hard to recruit areas. I think we need to list the current hard to recruit areas and maybe a reason as well.
But yes, you're absolutely right.
Move on to the next section. I'm very conscious it's gone half past and there's a lot crammed into the agenda.
Leavers now.
Yeah,
It's,
is that okay?
Yes, of course it is. Thank you. Oh, no, we're going to do homework.
Yeah, I would expect really. Go for the attention stuff. Yeah, stuff, yeah. I just did it. Halfway, is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's so really enthusiastic and encourages what we do, feel we should get some apprentices and so on. So we can start sharing
That is brilliant. Yes, and I think most people who bring in apprenticeships find that's absolutely fantastic for the, filling the hard filled skills gaps, for the retention, and morale within the organisation.
If you wanted to, it's so fine.
Thank you. Perfect. So the next on the agenda is recruitment and retention, and I'm guessing that's you, is it, Luke?
It's yes.
Super.
just as enthusiastic. Look at him.
Absolutely.
So hard for you to follow, isn't it? Gemma's been so good. So recruitment then. So I think this one really to give a bit of a timeline on the journey so far. Going back to January last year when the recruitment team first joined the HR department. So January through to March of last year, we had myself and a resource administrator, Matilda, who joined the team. We started mapping out a new recruitment process, working on all the new campaigns that were coming in to HR. In that first quarter, we were also successful in our first appointment, and we also successfully recruited 2 posts at SM2 level.
That's a head of service role. So
Not below 80.
yeah, the layer below AD.
Below AD, yeah. Going forward then to the next quarter, so April to June, we introduced some new user guides for the hiring managers. We've increased the social media presence across each vacancy. We introduced a multi-job board platform, which significantly increased our marketing reach. We collated adults and children's advertising with community care to reduce some of their costs down. We've got a much better return on investment. on the platform they use the most. That's right, got it. Yeah, so July through to September, we introduced a new hiring process, reducing the time to hire on average, and also increasing the first time success for recruitment campaigns. We reduced the use of recruitment agencies, which is probably one of the bigger ones. And we attended our first fair, promoting opportunities across the organisation. And then through the final quarter of 2023, we collaborated with the digital team to create our first microsite for senior recruitment. We successfully appointed a new manager for the brand new children's home. And we also appointed the permanent director of children's services.
Can I say something about that? Because that was an outstanding success. She hasn't started yet, but she will be starting next month. But when I told people in the South East network of children's services leads that we had 40 applicants for that job, they nearly all killed over that. At the same time, I think it was Dorset. I can't remember. It was what a county was. They got 2 applications. They went through an agency, so it has revolutionised our ability to recruit somebody decent. I mean, it was a fantastic process.
It really has. Louise made that point, didn't you?
Yeah.
You felt that you did better from the microsite than you would have had through an agency.
Yes.
We had the agency when we did the previous children's services.
The only
We
thing I
ended up recruiting internally.
the only thing I would say is that it's a real team effort.
Yes.
So that we recruit, that we put the effort in to recruit and put the time so that we made sure we had the exec director for children's, adults and health available. We had videos and also it's a real
Yes, this
team.
time round, yeah.
Yeah, it's a real team effort and I think we've proved the fact that we have the right resources, we have the right technology tools, and if we put the right time in, we can get a better outcome than perhaps paying one of the bigger agencies or paying the agency as well like we would have done. Which I think has been one of Personnel Board's challenges since I first started here.
I remember when I started.
Yeah.
It very much is. It's all about that one team approach, and you don't get that by using an agency who's outside of the organisation, working inside, working together, and collating service, kind of selling the journey and what it's about to be a local borough council, an agency to some degree.
Agencies just recycle people.
They do. I mean,
They just
that's
sell the same people around in circles.
Yeah.
Two questions, but I can't see statistics in here, but I think got them again. First is average cost per hire. And I'd like to see that for agency and non-agency. And then I'd like to see how many we are hiring through each channel.
Yes, that's funny enough, literally just before this meeting, we were talking about how can we measure it better. So for the first year, again, just being frank, as Rachel will know, we didn't know if we could do it ourselves, so we were starting from a low base. I think it's fair to say. Obviously, we brought the right level of expertise from his private sector experience, but we really needed to find our way. Now that we've got the confidence, we've had the validation from the services and also from what members have said tonight, our next kind of stage or next iteration, that's really being able to get underneath the facts and figures so we can say, we can demonstrably articulate the change that Wokinham's been through, not just the 40 candidates, although that's massively important.
But the quality.
It's the cost quality.
The cost per hire gives you permission
Correct.
to have budget and people that are able to do internal hires. It's really important.
Yeah.
And it's really important that it seems to be going down. And I think splitting it by agency and not, obviously it'll be a lot cheaper to do it without agencies, and being honest about the cost of each and the volume of each would really be useful. I think that will give you all sorts of ammunition when you have your conversations with Graham.
Agreed, and we're not far off that. We just need it. We've got.
I need to just refine it a bit. I just need it to be right. I don't want it. Yeah. If someone challenged that number, I'd like to be able to demonstrate how we put that number together. And that's why I don't think we're quite ready with the information. We've had many a chat about it because I want to get there, but it's that thing of just the measure of. It's the measure of officer time as well, and being realistic about that officer time. And that's probably the most difficult variable that we just need to look at. But we're nearly there with some figures.
Well, actually,
we have.
Because you've got DCS recruited 40 applications plus 36,500 saving, and another one of 6,500 saving. So, I know it made the savings, what we don't know, but you started to do
We
that, and I agree
started
with
it.
Pauline, we get that link of what's good, bad and
But
indifferent.
the other thing is not just about what you putting the person, it's things like how they're doing their appraisals.
Yeah.
And how long they stay.
Yeah,
And
so
it's
it's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Some other things you need.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah, I'm reaching the quality, not necessarily-
That's a big one.
It's-
It's
yeah.
like, say, splitting it between, you know, what it costs about using an agency, what it
There's
costs.
too many things in, it becomes unmeasurable.
Yes.
Um,
I think, yes.
I think let's stick to the recruiting element for the moment, and then we'll see how things
And I
go.
think something which will be a little bit of a recurring theme tonight is we are on a journey with the statistics, and Louise is at the point where she's coming near to the point that.
Well, the full year
Yes.
has had 1
Yeah.
year without different quarters, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, we were on the full year, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, Lee. It's good to get excited. I just get excited.
I was interested in the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to kind of finish this kind of timeline piece off then, first year with the recruitment team, a bit of a results overview. So we increased the average application levels on vacancies by 45%. We reduced the average time to hire by 36%. That also increased the success first time appointing by 26%. We reduced adults and children's advertising spend. We saved around 129,000 on recruitment agency fees. And we had approval on social work academy as well.
Percentage is that?
Sorry,
Agency fees.
129.
What percentage is that of the budget?
We'd have to double check.
We'd have to, yeah.
Look, I think that's mainly on what we've been working on. So there's hiring managers have still been going out.
Depending on the number of vacancies that you advertise, that's the trouble.
You must have an idea.
Yeah.
We don't have a recruitment budget. The recruitment budget's set out in the directorate. So we know that they're saving that money, and that's sort of part of what we need to build in the fact of and what we're basing it on. So when we went out for the place and growth director, we'd already engaged with a recruitment agent to undertake that. So we came here with those figures and quoted those figures. That's where that 129,000 has come from. Obviously, we do know the spend that we did on the DCS, so we're not sort of saying there was no spend on it. We're not being, stupid about it. But this is where we've just got to look at that and sort of, I think, go through that in a lot more detail just before we're ready to really sort of interrogate. Because I think it's just the way it's over the years. That's how it was set up. That's always how, the
And it's quite
recruitment.
common, isn't it, to do it in that way? Correct.
So I did some AI on the accounts and the transactional charges. It's actually quite easy to extract spend with recruitment agencies. You don't need a finance person to do it. You need to feed it the spreadsheet and ask it a question. So I think there is actually
Correct the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
No, it's on public domain. It's on the website.
Yeah, it's just making sure everything's coded to the right element. And yeah, I think
we have to double check. It's been.
Well, it's worth having a look at that report on the spreadsheet on the website. It's actually quite good.
Okay, and we'll
And it is worth finding out to put the cost.
But just to kind of illustrate that 129,000, that's where we know where we've jumped in and taken the recruitment away from a manager who would have gone to an agency and spent X amount.
So when are you going to actually take control of it and stop them going to it?
wow.
maybe there.
I'll be honest, as you would expect, but we've permanentized the resourcing business partner now.
Yeah.
Which is that's a real kind of step change for us. I'll be honest, we've been really keen to be able to prove our worth, and therefore it's less of ripping it off somebody.
Well, at least get rid of it, do a good job.
Yes, and there's no objection for us taking on it. In fact, I would say directors and assistant directors and heads of service would bang these doors down whenever they've got a difficult recruitment point.
Yeah, I think we are, don't forget, still improving and rebuilding HR.
Correct. Yeah. That's such an obvious.
It's decimated in 2019.
Yeah.
You have done an enormous amount in the last year and a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm not putting on the spot now, but I'd be interested to know when you think.
So managers, I personally believe I think it's happening anyway. They've been to agencies, not had any success, and are now coming to Lee saying, how can you do it? So I think the drop.
I think it'll flick anyway.
Yeah, I think it's naturally happens because of Lee's reputation with Matilda, because they're proactive in the way that they're marketing. The DCS being a huge success for us, where we've probably saved £35,000 to £40,000. They can really see the value in the services, and they are coming direct to us now.
The other thing we've done is Lee, like Gemma, has been to like the managers networks and the extended CLT. So he's briefing them, and then we've got assistant directors standing up in that room and saying in highways, in Democrats, so Andrew, Chris Easton, standing up and saying we had a really positive experience. And again, they weren't planted, they did that on their own. And I think that almost speaks volumes for the other managers that are in there, because they can see that success.
So I think some measure of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it speaks to how people want to use you.
Yeah.
I'm quite conscious that Millie's got quite a few.
Yeah, I don't
come through. Shall we maybe hold questions until the end?
So
And allow me to run through the slides, and I'm very conscious that we've got an awful lot to fill in.
We do, and we may just want to pick a couple of them, because obviously you've got the slides in advance, so if there's particular questions, then.
Hard to fill one.
Yes.
Yes, that's a very good switch.
So I'm going to go through some recruitment Q3 summary.
Yeah, so maybe we pause and take questions, because then we have the slides and.
We've got hard to fill as well, if you want to go.
So this page here then just demonstrates Q3 23-24, an overview. We picked some highlights of recruitment. So the top tab on the left is number of jobs and applications through our applicant tracking system. So number of jobs advertised 110, number of applications across those jobs 993, which gives an average of just over 9 per job vacancy, which is really good average. Media job board return on investment. So this is more figures as opposed to calculations, but total visits, it's about just short of 150,000 visits in Q3 across the job board we've been using. Apply clicks just over 3,500, and submit clicks just under 1,000. The average time to hire is 42 days, so absolutely bang on 6 weeks, which is that's probably exceptionally good. 6 weeks, you're taking 4 weeks for advertising, 2 weeks for shortlisting, interviewing, maybe second stage interviews, depending on the level of the vacancy, and then getting a verbal offer out to the candidate. So anything below 50 days as a time to hire is probably where we want it to be. And then just some highlights throughout the directorates. So adult social care, we had 9 social care vacancies recruited to. There was 87 applications across those areas. We also recruited a compliance lead. Chief exec, we have recruited the IT infrastructure manager, 34 applications for that role, which we were very impressed with.
It's so hard to fill, to get that level of technical specialism into a local government. We've never had that interest. Yeah. Just it's the right, going to the right place at the right time, the right hour.
I think it's one of those job types, and this is where some of the hard to fill jobs come in, where effectively you could be doing the same role in the private sector, being paid a lot more money.
Yeah, but it's not all about salary, and
it's retail is all the same.
It's the brain, and there's so many things to sell, and that's where coming and doing it internally makes a huge difference, and it's a difference to the agencies. But really good achievement on that side. Then of course we have the senior HR VP, we had 69 applications to that, so some pretty record applications for some of these jobs. Children's services, DCS, we saved just over 35,000 on the spend with the agency there. We also recruited, I think Prue mentioned earlier on, the head of education access and sufficiency, which is another really good role. P&G, we recruited the head of housing, another really high level of applications there. But we also recruited a climate emergency service manager role. Resource and assets. We took a corporate investigation officer role away from an agency, saving £6,500, which is brilliant because we did that in about 4 weeks. So really, really quick. We've also recruited 3 lawyers across property, regulatory and planning. They were particularly challenging roles, and we were very pleased to be successful on those. And just in a recovery admin apprentice was recruited in resource and assets as well. Savings for the quarter, purely based on agency spend, was just over 43,000.
Shall we pause that?
Yeah, okay.
Any questions that? But again, I think just to set the context in the same with that with the inclusion, this is part of our workforce improvement programme. We just felt it was helpful to bring the personnel board a bit of a snapshot of the direction, and I think Lindsay's rightly raised that HR needed an investment, needed a bit of a reset, and well, actually, all 3 of the people being recruited.
Definitely.
It's not perfect. This is a journey that this organisation is on, but which it's helpful for the personnel board to see that direction.
And I think what's absolutely great about the cluster of reports that you brought to this meeting is we've looked at apprenticeships, we've looked at recruitment and retention, and now we've got agency. So we're very much bringing together a number of things in the same area. And a lot of the discussion that we've had about agency recruitment, contractor recruitment, you are now showing how you will reduce our need for agency and contractor recruitment through everything that you're doing.
Correct. And this isn't HR on our own. This is absolutely a corporate direction of travel that we're taking.
Yeah.
So.
I think through having sort of modelled HR, so Lee's role now sits in the business partnering. So Lee will actually go to those early stage meetings. So we're talking with the SEND team at the moment and with Jamie as head of SEND about what are our recruitment options. So Lee's putting some packages together about how can we really work together with the services, business partners, all as one council really, rather than being all a bit disjointed. It's all brought together.
Jobs on the next slide are actually understandable, unlike
Those of you,
couldn't understand.
Then it is on the tin, yeah.
I came from an agency somewhere, didn't I? Oh dear.
Do you have any more questions, points, considerations about recruitment of the agency?
Let Lee go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Should we actually, should we vote to receive those last 2 years? So I should have asked at the end of the first one. So, yes, thank you very much. That's it. I just vote generally around the table, see if everybody's happy to receive those. Paul, are you happy to, sorry, you are. Oh, right, okay, I wasn't quick enough. Fantastic. So the next one then is the agency worker report. Now this is one which obviously a year or so ago used to be in part 2. It used to be a confidential discussion. I was very keen that we bring it into part 1 so that we have a public discussion of the information. One of the things that Louise and I have been talking about is how can we highlight where things are changing within this report? And one of the things which Louise can say a few words about is now she's getting to the point where she's got 1 year of data. We are at the point where very much you're going to see a division of, there are some things in this report which are quite similar to the last report, and we're going to start separating those out so that the changes from one quarter to another are really highlighted.
Yeah, absolutely. I think last time we brought quarter 1 and quarter 2 together, which noted that we didn't want that joined up. So we've segregated again, and this is the end of quarter 3. So this would be for the end of December 2023. We're still seeing a fall in comparison if you actually look across the board on our agency spend. And I think what's really, I think why we wanted to talk about those other two items around apprenticeships and recruitment is they both talk to this particular paper and are the tools that we're starting to use where we say we've still got gaps or we've still got the hard to recruit to jobs. And this is where we would then still have those agency requirements. And I think so I think this is where you get the similarities as Rachel's sort of been pointing out. Obviously, we always review this paper. We always talk to our directors and we always check that we're not putting information in here that is out of date or is incorrect. We're always sort of making sure that, I think the other thing we're also doing is also measuring ourselves against what's going on in Berkshire as well, just to try and get that sort of comparison on what's happening. So again, in adult social care, you're going to see where sort of similar, you're going to see similar job titles. So social workers, approved mental health professionals, occupational therapists. But again, it's about the trainee schemes that are being put in to try and, as I say, improve in that area. Again, children's services, there's been a lot of work around benchmarking and looking at what other local authorities are doing. So again, to make sure that our position in the market is right with regards to what we're doing. Did you want me to pause before?
Yeah, I wondered what happened in November.
November.
Yes, we can look at the latest children.
Yeah, I was looking at children's services as well.
I have my 200 grand and place in Rosewood,
There's a bit of a time
It's interesting, it's high on these invoices.
Yeah.
This is part of our problem.
Something that Louise has made in the summary is that sometimes what you're looking at is it's when the expenditure comes in and not when the workload came in. As it were. Yeah.
We've got obviously we've got an interim DCS account who in that figure, but it didn't change in that period, but we'll see at the end of this quarter. We've brought in, we had a retirement in the summer, and we had to bring in an interim to cover the AD role in that. So and that person is still with us, and we brought in an extra resource. Was quite expensive to help with the transformation.
You had a resignation as well. So you had a retirement and a resignation. Yes, that's right. Yes, position as well. So you had two ADs go within weeks of each other.
So the resources.
Vicky and Rachel.
Resource for a bit longer because it's absolutely best to save.
Yeah.
They are producing and all. They've given us the capacity because they're people with senior experience to actually be able to sort out some of our other spending. And they're saving us more than they're costing us the changes that they're bringing. Although we can't see that in the spend in children's services because the costs and the demand is going up quicker than we can bring the spending down. It would be even worse if they weren't.
So this is genuine November.
Yeah, well, it's
a genuine thing.
That happened in September, and then the money didn't sort of catch up with us until now. It just takes a while for the agency to hit the actual because the people didn't start in September. Those people left. Yes, yes.
November had sort of some of October.
It's how quickly the agencies actually invoice us, and then when we physically pay.
But you should be accruing the cost when it happens, and then paying it when the bill comes in, and you should be tracking on when you're spending it, not when you forget the bill.
But this is some of the issue we've got with the data. Is well, not issue. The data's right. It's just
I think it's to get in the right direction. I agree with you. I looked at 476 as a step.
So I think that we're starting to get on the right trend. When you've got a bit more information.
I think you've only got that year.
What was the most significant from my perspective was the bit above, which said the head count of agency workers for the end of 22-23 was 100, and then the head count for agency workers at the end of 23-24 was 80. There will be an element of inflation in people's salaries as well, so we've got a bit of that could be coming through. But I think that's the start of moving it in the right direction.
It shows, yes, it does show, doesn't it, direction.
Could very well be linking back to your apprenticeships system, where you've got, it's been traditionally children's services, adult social services have been the real agency areas, with some others, and some longer term ones in highways, which have been a real quite expensive ones.
Better, I don't think point on point.
No, it won't work, will it? No.
I'm not sure, I'm not saying it's.
Yeah.
Just,
I think it's indicative, and I think the other caveat that I always, yes, the other thing I always like to add is, of course, well, generally the direction we're looking for is agency headcount and agency spend reduce, and you know, Leah's working very hard on helping us to get there. There are going to be jobs where actually it is the most cost effective, slash the best way of recruiting those particular members of staff, because you need somebody for short amounts of time. You know, really somebody as well as
Only needs 6 weeks.
or 8 weeks, that's it.
Yeah, I was clear. I can absolutely get Pauline's point of I was literally just trying to work out in my head how BWO, which is our ERP, about how it tracks somebody as an agency worker, and Pauline's right, we know when they start, therefore we should be able to align their cost to the invoice. At the moment, what we track is their invoice. So I don't dispute it. I just don't think that we've yet set that up to work like that. So if personnel board are happy, we'll take that way and have conversations with people who are more technical than I am.
I think so, yes. It comes back to the thing that I promised was going to be a theme, which is we're on a journey with numbers. We are making some very good progress, but we're not exactly yet where we would like to be.
So you need to track when you incur the cost, not when you.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And we do know.
You do know that.
We do.
Yeah, no, we absolutely do. And I think it's just that thing of HR never asked for that information before, whereas now HR wants to know that information.
Not generally particularly numerous.
Well, I was happy.
It's very nice to see.
Because at the end of the day, you need to know the cost of what's going on, and it's just genuinely though, I think it is connecting up, and what we've got to do, and this is, as I say, it's the connecting the dots between, right, we just talked about some of those hard to recruit jobs, which genuinely we are filling. So I would start to expect to see that impacting, but there's always something else happening or something else going on in the market.
That's why possibly people have a chance of making statements and things that have come out. Michael gave about I demand reduce your reliance on contractors and so on. It's not possible to reduce that figure to 0 because you will always have some short-term stuff and some vacancies and some maternity cover.
And it will go up and down.
Sometimes a contractor, an agency worker is the right answer.
Yes.
Especially if you've got particular skill requirements that are big. You don't need them all the time. IT is
just going to say
highways as well.
When agency workers annoy me, jobs that current employees are meant to be doing, but aren't actually doing. Right. That's when you get double handling. That's when it.
That's definitely something we have a handle on, and we know that's not.
That's happened, as we know.
Yes. Could you see the headcount by quarter for the last?
Yes.
So Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, 2022, 23, and 4. And then we can see the trend.
That's something that I'm very keen that this report starts to show more of. Again, that's part of the journey. We want to see trends over time. And there will be times, for example, we're working on some big highways projects and IT projects or elections, and you'll see the headcount go up, and we need to be forgiving of that. But yes, we want to see overall, I think we are looking for a downward trend at this point in.
And I used to report this monthly. And headcount as well, but do a moving average. So do a 3-month moving average as well. I'm not suggesting.
I think the thing is, we've now got a much better handle of information that's available to us. Also, you've got some fantastic resource as well. We don't have to be the experts. We've got experts in the organisation we can go to and go, right, because we've now got that better understanding. We know what the system can do as well. So, I mean, this is why, at the end of the day, why we come to yourselves and just to get that direction of what you'd like to see. So, and I know it's something we've been talking about. So, absolutely take that on board. I mean, at the end of the day, what we're wanting to see is keeping a watching eye. We do not want to see big increases going on. If there are, we've got to have very good reasons for why things are happening.
The organisation.
So,
So Are there any other questions before we, hopefully are prepared to put our hands up to say that we received the agency report?
One final question, what happens in place and growth?
Yeah,
That's eloquent description of what happens in children's services. So place and growth.
Yeah,
It went up by 50%.
apparently doubles again.
yeah, it's likely to be reporting lags on invoices, but if we look at a breakdown of actual tenure versus day rate, we should be able to give more accurate costing for you.
Super. Okay, so are we happy to receive that report? Fantastic. Thank you very much. I think that was everybody in favour. And then the next one is the gender pay gap report.
Yes, I know we're moving around the agenda a little bit, but I just think it's right at the back. Yeah. I'll put it in.
73. I'm sure I went right back to the beginning.
Advantage of having it on here, I just click on the thing.
I
and
have
start
to say, before you do this, the gender pay gap, I've been on personnel long enough,
Yes.
and I've never understood it because the number of people we have in Wokingham is that there are now more women working in the council than men, and it all depends upon the role
Yeah.
and all the things that we were looking for, which is where we're looking for the trends. And we've also found that there's certain jobs that are
Yes.
where there's lower pay and tends to be women employed. And so therefore, I'll be looking at this and hoping you can deal with that, because that's the thing we've always said. If you go back to all the planning,
Stuart was here 53. So we've had the same one we've always had. How do we understand what this actually means?
because it didn't, we just didn't feel it.
I think as well, based on the report from last year, we've looked at the narrative. So we've actually changed the narrative, recognising the makeup of our workforce. The fact that we've got more females in lower graded roles, but also we don't have in-house waste, we don't have DLO. Which are typically male.
Yeah.
So we've reflected that in the report based on the feedback from last year.
Personnel board probably
Yeah.
brought this report last year.
It was brought in
I
June.
think it was Lindsay who might have raised the point around
Yeah.
how are we accurately reflecting, because
Yeah.
local government does have a higher proportion of women employed, but Sally's absolutely right. In local authorities that tend to have that DLO function, that's where you tend to see men employed.
Yeah.
But we don't have that, so it's right and proper that we include that in the report as an explanation.
Yes.
Yeah.
As long as a man and a woman doing the same job
Okay.
are paid the
We are,
same,
we are not Birmingham.
then you will find I'm happy. I was campaigning when I was in BT 20 years ago.
Yeah.
They did do that, and it didn't
Yeah.
always work through.
But that's not,
Paulie's got a very, very valuable point here, actually. So you're absolutely right. That's the bare legal minimum, that we need to ensure that we're doing that. But I think.
Well, exactly. We need to make sure that-
Place, aren't you?
yeah,
Yeah.
you're in the same place as I am, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, we need to make sure that more women do the higher paid jobs.
We've got one.
Yes.
So.
And it's not on positive discrimination, but on
No.
ability and.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
our new DCS is a woman. We'll add to the number of.
So we used to have a terrible problem with pilots.
Yes.
And we need to make the equivalent in Wokingham equivalently.
Yeah.
Is it possible for you to produce for us for the next, without falling over anything, the ADs and heads of service split by gender?
Yes,
Easy, yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
Director AD.
I think
That's the key thing.
Yes, so like CLT would be.
Yes,
equal.
well, there's so few people actually.
And it's different because we had ECLT today, so I've
Yeah.
facilitated a quite interesting session with ECLT this afternoon, 3 hours, so they're the joy of my face. And it is absolutely representative, so, but we just need to
Yes.
evidence that
Yes.
to you.
Was
Yeah.
it down to
And I think another thing which would be great, and this is something which is going to be quite slow over time because this is something that's done annually, is to start to get some of the trends over the years, start to bring that out in the gender pay gap report. So the gender pay gap report obviously is something where there are statutory requirements, there are things that we have to publish every year. But I think we as personnel would really like to see those data trends over time. And we won't expect revolution. It is going to be evolution.
Yeah.
We would really like to see an evolution in a positive direction.
Maureen's point about the pilots.
Yeah.
I'd also like to see that by directorate, because I don't want women, you know, when we have our children's services meeting, it's nearly all women in various safeguarding boards and improvement boards and stuff. And actually, if you go in place of growth, it would be all
Well, if you
men.
go in HR, it's all women, but they.
So come on,
Not in the office.
I don't know enough about public service pay, but do we pay different amounts for the same complexity and level of job depending on what area it's in?
So I think that refers back to the 1.4, which is the reference about, it's not about equal pay for men and women, it's about making sure the complexity of the roles are evaluated in the right way.
Yes.
I think going back to Prue's point, it's identifying those areas that are typically male or female. So I'm thinking of IT in particular, and being able to articulate where Wokingham is on that journey.
So there's several ways of putting bias in here. There's the explicit way of just paying women less than men. There's the implicit, which we don't do. There's the more subtle way, which is having particular jobs that women do that are lower paid. And then there's the even more subtle way, which is evaluating things that on the face of it are the same differently, and therefore ending up with a pay gap because of that.
Correct.
And that's what Birmingham fell over, isn't it? But
Birmingham fellows are not doing, they're sorting out their grade book, they're at the same time with everybody else.
yeah, but
Yeah, 20 years ago.
I think there's sort of different levels of obviousness.
Yes,
The third level.
yes, there is, and I'm able to absolutely confirm that we use our job evaluation scheme very much from the point of view of making sure that the same kinds of jobs,
Yes.
job families are being paid at the same grades.
What scheme do you use?
We're using pay. Sorry, went blank for a second. Sorry.
There will always be still areas people.
But then that's where you have your flexible pay policy, where you will need to use market supplements.
So I agree that you have to work out if it's an IT job, what the complexity of that, a finance job, what the complexity of that, whatever job. Complexity of that. You've got a comparable level.
Yeah, correct.
But if you find that one of them is extremely difficult to recruit,
Then you're going to end up having to up your pay level just to get it. So you're going to get a distortion.
Well, that's also whereby we have to sort of do two things there. So you have to have your market supplements. So you are actually understanding if that you can be flexible in the market, because it's really important to be able to be flexible. But equally, thinking of the wider framework for HR, you've also got to be prepared to review that wider framework at times. It's not something you do every day. It's something you should be doing sort of every 5 years or so, or 6 or 7 years. Is it still fit for purpose? Have we got too many market supplements that's telling us something's not quite right with the market, in the fact that the market's changed and we're still down here somewhere, or we've not.
Market supplements still not necessarily.
Yeah, or we take them off. Yes, absolutely agree with that. So, the market conditions can change. You can grow your own over a period of time. And yes, you absolutely have to make that difference. And all of this feeds into then this sort of gender pay gap. And just to sort of give you the sort of headlines on this. So looking at the number of employees on the 31st of March 2023, which is the date you have to sort of undertake this, we had 1,587 employees. 1,189 of those were women, and 398 of those were men. So we've got 75%, 25% sort of difference there. But as already been discussed in 1.5, we've sort of set out the profile of our services at Wokingham, and some of those more traditional roles where males are paid at a lower grade, we don't have at Wokingham. To a certain extent, you will always find that you're going to have that maybe disparity in numbers. It doesn't mean we can't try and do things to obviously try and level that up or equal it, make it more attractive for equally men to come into those lower paid jobs as well as women coming into the higher paid. So it's always looking at initiatives. And again, I go back to using Gemma from a point of view of succession planning and thinking about qualifications that they can do, and then also Lee from the point of view of how we're recruiting and making sure that we're being as inclusive as we possibly can when we're going out, and that our bias is not in that sort of process. So just going back to sort of what I'd say then, the headlines. So our headlines are that we are actually paying women still and 12.42% less than men. However, that's our mean amount, and our median is 15.39%. So if you go to, sorry, that's my table. So on the table on 76, so I'm just going to say, so if you go to the table at the top of page 76, it's a little bit clearer. So in other words, women's earnings are £2.68p less than men's.
It's not 78. 78. The green tea.
Yeah, 76.
I've got 76 as well.
It's just this.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you've got.
The page has gone from it.
Apologies.
Well,
Did you remember the great green blob on?
It's this one.
78, yes, I apologise. Yeah, I've got a different trading number.
That's bizarre. Okay, so yeah, so the table right at the top there gives you the mean, and that just sets it out very clearly. It's £2.68 less, which equates to as 12.42%. I think that the main point here is if we do that, though, since 2020, that numbers continue to come down. So again, I'm looking at your page 79 now. If you look at the table at the bottom of the page, you can see that from 2020 to 2023, the numbers have been dropping with regard to that gap. And I see that with regards to the approach to recruitment, and I think the different changes that we're looking to make. So
that's impacted by the comment that's on the first page of the section, which is it's the section 1.5.
Yeah.
Men are more highly represented in senior positions. Yeah, that could change with time, or
Yes.
it should get much more equal. More women than men work part-time, and part-time trends. That, I think, is just back to life, I think.
Yeah.
And the next point is more women than men take career breaks. Now, men do have career breaks, but it does tend to be more women going for children. So there are those 2 and 3 that we can come here and be talking about this in 20 years' time, and 2 and 3 will still be.
It might have changed, but where we are at the moment.
Things are gradually changing.
Yeah, the legislation helps.
Yeah.
But I think it still is going to be.
It is factual.
It might be
It's wide
70-20.
society, yes.
It might
wide
be 60-40.
society, yes.
But I think it's always going to be a bit of that because of the facts that how things are. But I think that's always going to do it. So the fact that they're narrowing a gap is going to do that. Is what I think. It'll get to a very difficult level. So I think it's encouraging that it's getting closer. I think it's encouraging that we are getting more equal scheduled people across all levels in the council.
I think we're going to continue to work that way. And again, this comes back to, again, the quality of our data is continuing to improve all the time in this. So again, it just means we can interrogate it in lots of different ways to look at ways to be more attractive out in the market. And as I said, we didn't get into it, but I know Lee is also looking at, from an equalities perspective, who is actually now sort of applying for jobs. And we just need to start to look at that correlation and some of that information. But as I say, so I think the other thing just to mention, and I think it's important, is the ethnicity pay gap. We don't actually have to report on this. So we're a little bit ahead on ourselves on this one, but they're about to change, I think, the legislation and say that you do need to be reporting on your ethnicity pay gap. And we, again, are doing we're quite positive, actually, on this with regard to our ethnicity pay gap. In fact, people being paid from an ethnicity background with an ethnicity background generally more than those that are in the lower paid roles. In fact, I'm just looking for my actual fact, which actually sets it out, makes it a little bit clearer. I was going to say it's like
Yeah, an 81, that'd be 2 pages ahead, yeah. Which one?
The 80, the one at the bottom of page 81, section 5, ethnicity.
Minus 7.77, the thing, yeah, I don't understand that either.
So I understand that it's median, and I understand why the percentages have changed, and I understand that you said in 5.1 that people of ethnic minorities are actually paid more.
Yes.
But you don't talk about the median, you only talk, or you don't talk about the mean, you only talk about the median.
Yes, that's a good point. That's a fair point, actually.
Yeah.
I'll have a look at that. Yeah, I'll have a look at that. So I spotted that.
That's a legacy.
It feels like a legacy table.
I think
Well, no, it's probably fine, but.
we just need to be able to
You need to
articulate
talk about
it.
that.
I will absolutely.
Explain it. So
Yes, that's a fair challenge.
Yeah, so basically,
I'm not bad at that.
because what we were declaring there was that 18.17% of our employees have declared their ethnicity. So 12.67 are from an ethnic minority background, and 69.5% are from a non-ethnic minority background. And then we were saying then that the payment, which is on 5.3, the median hourly rate for ethnicity minority employees is 18.35 compared to 17.53 for non-ethnic
Well, that
minority.
table doesn't actually.
No.
And has this special lady with the work.
Yeah. So I'll go away because I know.
Like.
But it's not clear what.
Is it the type
What
of
it's
job the?
I think it's a minus. It should be a minus if they're getting paid more.
Work in IT, aren't they?
But yeah,
Then why is the
the mean doesn't say the same thing, does it?
Yeah.
Because I know my medium is average and the mean is
So it means the average, median to mid-value.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but we want to be able to compare apples with apples. And
Absolutely.
yeah, Lindsay was just saying, is that because of people typically being in different jobs and right at the end of the report and
Yes,
saying,
because,
we have more ethnic minority and professional management roles. Yeah.
I can't understand, well, I can actually, the median has got less disparity, but that could be because the mean is.
It's got more disparity.
No, it hasn't, it's got less disparity. Median, yeah, no, last year it was 7.77 and this year it's only 4.7, which means that there are fewer, the disparity has
The
reduced.
gap is less.
So the middle value for people in ethnic minorities is presumably 4.7% higher than non-ethnic minorities.
And I think
Yes.
that's.
What I don't understand is why the mean is
Yes.
the other way around.
Yes.
So we just need to.
I'll go.
It is possible, but it's,
Yes.
I'll let you go check it.
it's going to be a very.
I wonder where the minus came from.
I know it's a mistake.
Yeah, it very, it could be.
It could be a mistake, we're
But I
even.
would say, we've been through it and none of us picked that up, which is one of the benefits of bringing it here. So we'll check that and we'll.
This afternoon.
I will check it because we have
Yeah,
to
publish
publish this. Yeah. So this will be done, and I will report it back to you.
It's the same last year as well.
Okay, I never done
It's the same last year.
Yeah, no, we expect to see minus, but it's
Yeah.
why the median and mean is so. There should be.
It is
Very different.
One's got a
documents to
minus in
previous.
it.
Yeah, it's much.
It is much more
It is, yes.
understandable.
So.
Written.
Yeah.
Rather than.
Yes, it is.
That's, I can see how it could, yeah, I can see how it could.
I remember those. Remember those tables. One is, I just have lost my.
Oh.
We need to think about it.
So, have we got any more questions or comments to make about gender pay gap for me?
I was a bit worried about the graph on page 84, which shows the proportion of people that start on the top of grade, which is never a good thing to do from a morale point of view, which means they're already banging their heads on the top of the grade when they first
What,
get
8.2%?
all 11.7.
Yeah, yes. So 8.2%, and because 11.7% of quite a small number. But I think we need to just, I'll double check that. But that's to do with recruitment, to be honest with you.
And if I'm honest, as somebody who not
Yeah,
necessarily in this
it's
organisation, but has been recruited on top of this, it's about wanting to go to the organisation for its values, for what it can bring. But I want to match the salary that I was on at the time.
Yeah, and it just rings alarm bells for me because people that start at the top of the grade and then don't get the next step can quite often be either moved or be pretty disgruntled.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And that's the alarm bell I'm worried about. I'm not worried about the.
It's just being able to put a narrative
It
around
is the narrative, because typically they would be coming to us potentially also with potentially a pay cut from wherever they've come, which is top of grade. I don't think we generally see a lot of movement for that reason, because they don't get headroom. They know they're coming in, because we would have that open conversation.
That just, I've seen problems when you bring a lot of people up in at the top. I just worry about the problems. I'm not worried about the
narrative, yeah.
But I think there's another thing, because another thing to look at with the grade is sometimes a grade, sometimes you have to pay to the top because you have got a fully qualified person that's been doing that job for quite a number of years. So actually bringing them in lower is actually going to cause you, they won't accept it, to be quite honest. Yeah.
I think probably they should be at the bottom.
Oh, the next one. Yes.
They will.
It's just a question. It's not
Yeah,
something
it's a fair
wrong.
point.
Yeah.
Something that.
But that leads into my bigger piece of work that we're doing in HR around our framework of just generally reviewing our whole system. And this is where the whole system review needs to come in. Just check that we are, so as you say, using market supplements where we've got to, not using market supplements, are the grades fit for purpose?
That's the question.
as they need it,
Yeah.
they'll be paid for
Yeah.
back here.
It's not wrong, it's just a question.
Yeah, so put them through, yeah.
Gradings. That all counts. Yes, because my son who works in takes is very old fashioned.
Well, what, yes, and I don't.
It's not the type of method.
There's lots of other people.
It would be wrong of me to comment on the on the review.
So I think my question is really, are we considering what method we use? to
Correct.
classify?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
And I think the other thing we need to look at is whether you've got a decent sample in the right geographical area in the right frame.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
100%.
that work is
I think going back to the point,
Yeah.
going back to the point that raised about 8 and 11% started at the top of the graph. They would be newly recruited. And if they're stuck short term afterwards, two years plus, whatever,
I would bet that they are a significant percentage. It'd be worth looking at it,
I think,
because if they're stuck in the finances,
yeah, I was going to say, it may be though that people are making a very deliberate decision to move into those roles. So for example, they may be nearer the end of their career than the beginning, and that there are things the local authority can give them that they're not going to get out of their previous. Pensions is a good one, but they may not have been able to get at their previous employer.
maybe.
It's something we should look at, I think.
It's just not a theory.
It's very much challenge.
It is, yeah, it very much is, but this is what UHR team, we'll be looking at this.
structure in BT.
Yeah.
Report on that because it was very
Yeah.
structured.
Yeah, and I think this is where the flexibility we need to look, but it's more than, and I know people say it's not, it's more than just the salary.
It's about what we can,
It's the experience, it's the challenge you're given, it's the job you're given. There's opportunities.
Yeah, we know.
Just didn't take it like that, honestly not take it, it's a good challenge.
I think, sorry, it's a HR function as well, with the way that we support our managers. So when they go through that recruitment process, we're making sure that they're transparent about, if you are coming in at the top of that grade to a candidate, you are unfortunately stuck at that top of that grade.
But people will say that. People will take a job they've applied for, and then people will, if you've got it wrong, still be
That's
discussed.
why we need to look at the data and see.
Yeah, let's see what the turnover is like.
But yeah, as Bruce right, the thing is that I'm doing the 10 years back out at the moment, trying to get
the HR service back up and running. So if members of the board are happy, we'll.
And we will be bringing this, but we'll be bringing this back here to discuss and see if we should put through what we're doing. So,
Absolutely. Are there any?
Clear, we can see you make progress.
Yes, we absolutely are. And I'm working in HR, I'm astonished at the progress that you have made over the year and a bit that you've been with
Appreciate
us.
that.
So on this particular item, are there any more questions, comments? That we need to again vote this through. And we're voting to receive gender pay gap. Yeah, so everybody.
The improvement on previous.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, it's a quality policy.
Yeah.
So it's 8:30 and we have got 3 items, 4 items to go through. 3 items, sorry, Gavin. 3 items to go through, and the first of them is disciplinary.
The only thing I was just to say is a preamble, the 2 meaty items for discussion were the gender pay gap and the Q3. These are policy amendments to make sure they fit for purpose for the organisation. The legislation updates really are to note, because we can't amend those, we just have to apply them. So whilst there are a number of other items, they're there for consideration, for reference. Really.
Yes, and with the disciplinary policy, it was very much the case of the way that something was written, it could be misinterpreted.
Yeah,
and you had to put it right.
And also in the summary, it's about support as well. So we recognise through some recent situations that as an organisation we could be doing more to support an employee in a scenario, and sort of tightening up the process around suspension, being really clear about welfare, about what we'll do, because suspension should always be the last resort. So it's just strengthening the wording in the policy and removing some ambiguity as well that we've had, particularly about HR only being present at dismissal. So it was almost an employee potentially prejudging. Yeah, here we are. So we've removed that and made it stronger in the wording to make sure that it's really clear.
They can indeed, you've had your hands up.
It was a question about this, and the whole way through it talked about misconduct and gross misconduct. Is there a separate performance management policy that doesn't include discipline?
There is, yeah.
Interesting to see that.
Yeah, so all of our policies will be having a bit of a revamp. So in time, you will see them at board when we come back through for approval. But these are just minor changes to make them right. Good practice.
Yeah, okay. I'm just asking about the scope.
Yeah, and along with the appropriate training as well, so that our managers are able to actually do the do rather than just read the policy.
And Sally,
just for members, the biggest thing for us as well is making sure that our managers understand it. So the introduction of things like a process flow, Louise and Sally have spent time with our managers to send checklists with them. So this was about doing with our organisation rather than HR kind of churning out a piece of paperwork. This is about making sure our managers. But and as Sally said, this is just the start of. There's been a bunch of policies already. There's more to do.
That's one question. I spent 2 hours today doing a film how explain the Liberal Democrat similar complaints process and disciplinary procedure. People outside the process, I actually have something to do with trying to explain it to managers. You have to do it like this, it has to be fair, it has to have this, just take this stuff, a bit of evidence, so you can't.
I think also it gives that commitment to the employee about what we'll do. It's about, it has to be, and it will come back into the full refresh.
And I think that it is fair to say, let me know if I'm wrong, but it is fair to say the correct process was being followed. So HR were being brought in if there was a prospect that somebody could lose their job as a result of it. But it was just getting that clear in the wording.
Absolutely.
So are there any final comments, thoughts, questions? Are we happy to receive that? That's everybody voted in favour. And then it's the travel expenses policy.
So again, this is just reflecting that at the moment we have separate policies and guidance documents. Our guidance document is very clear on what people can and can't claim for. So the request is, is just to refresh our policy. In time, we will have one document, we won't have two. But we just need to be a lot clearer in what people can and can't claim for. So it is just an update.
Including councillors in
It's not employees, it's staff.
Separate.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
It's clear who the policies that apply to, so it's for staff. Doesn't apply to agency. Well, the principles would apply to agency workers, so it's just in the main that all this guidance is for our staff.
Are there any questions, thoughts?
I asked a question in advance about specifically which bits of Jenny.
Be happy with that, thanks.
Super. So are we happy to receive the travel expenses policy? Yes, Pauline, are you happy to receive that as well?
Yeah, I was just interested that it was sort of very travel based and whether there were any other expenses you could claim apart from travel.
There are, but again, I think that was, can't think of the word. Unique.
We're making a small amendment at this time. We will be coming back with a full policy review on this.
It says travel and expenses, but actually it's travel.
It's travel.
Travel expenses.
We remove the word and.
It's not.
That's fair. Yeah.
That's me, but yes.
With that question being answered, I'd be happy to receive it. So everybody's happy to receive this case. And that brings us to the last item of the evening, which is Louise reference. All we can do is say national government is looking to make these legislative updates. But it's very useful. But it is very useful that we have these. Yeah.
That's
what I said at BRT, and Louise and Sally done a great job already. They've been out to Managers Network to brief managers that these have come in, and to be aware, and also to make sure that they ask for help from their HR business partner. So again, this is building our understanding and knowledge outside of the HR service and making sure that this is managers aware of changes.
Is there anything that you particularly wanted to?
I think there's anything particularly on this item. I think, as I say, we've got to make these legislative changes, got the word out, and we'll make those in accordance with our policies.
These will be through the Metropolitan in there.
They are, yes.
Yes.
I think that's still highlighted in place.
No.
But yeah, that's a very, very nice, very thorough summary.
Question really. Yeah. I'm a bit out of date, like a year out of date. Is there still an opportunity to transfer maternity
to your
benefits to your partner?
Yeah.
How do you make sure that you aren't, if you're in two separate organisations, how do you make sure you aren't?
Question.
It's a grey area.
Yeah, it's a whole grey area.
Yes. You are relying to a very large extent on people's honesty.
Yeah.
It is quite interesting as well. I noticed with maternity leave in here somewhere, they are tightening up on that they will now have to sign a declaration.
Third one down.
I can't see where it is now.
It's
Third one of the list.
previously under paternity, they just used to have to apply for it. Now you physically have to sign a declaration to say that this is what you're actually doing. And I think it is tightening up on that because there's a statutory payment provision which we are eligible to claim back. It's almost making that statement to central government that that's what you're having the time off for paternity, because with maternity it's different because you get your form from the midwife. So it's obvious, yeah. So the shared parental one's a bit of a grey area. Yeah. We haven't had anything here or anyone apply for it, to my knowledge, over the past 12, 18 months. And the only case I have ever come across was where in a previous council, they both worked for the council, so we were able to track it through properly. I think it would, if we ever had that application, I think it's almost just having to talk to the partners organisation to make sure that
that's something worth noting as a process.
Yeah,
it's something that I can add in because I've worked both with my current and my previous organisation. There were quite a few men did take on the shared parental leave, and typically they have been with the organisation for quite some period of time. There is obviously a minimum service level in there. People know what's going on in their lives, they know the partner, they see pictures of the baby and all of the rest of it. So, you can see that something is happening. It's not going to be the case in every case, it's not going to be the case in every organisation, but actually the cases as I have seen, it was very well known that the partner was pregnant.
Yeah, it's not that. I wasn't worried about that. I was worried about double claiming,
It's a double claim.
So
We
I take, my husband takes my maternity leave, but I claim it as well, and nobody knows. That's the thing I was
We can build a process into the application form. That's,
I
yeah.
think we need to just think about that.
Yeah.
Not that I think it's likely here, but
No,
some
but
places.
yeah,
That's about.
I'd rather we have something there to prevent.
So are we happy to accept that? Vote to accept that? Very much.
Useful to know.
Thing, and it's a welcome, we haven't had that before, have we?
No.
That's good.
Yeah.
I was going to try and make it, something that keeps coming back.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, October's another time.
Oh.
We're going to get out the door in a minute.
That's terrible.